Well, good afternoon, everybody. So let me start out by talking about the help button. So when you log into Canvas, there's a help button down here in the global navigation. When you click that, you guys won't have as many options as I have, but the key things to point out are there'll be a link to the Canvas guides. And this is something that instructor keeps up to date and current at all times. So if you want to click on that and look up a particular topic or just browse through it and see if there's something you're missing, there are hundreds of guides there. So I definitely recommend searching. But they're always up to date and give a lot of great information. There is a Canvas community, so you could get in there and log in, and there's places there where you could chat with other people and search if anybody else has ever had this problem or had this idea. And there are even quote unquote ideas that you can vote on. And the more people who vote on these ideas, they bubble up and Canvas starts to pay attention. And a lot of the new features that come out in Canvas are because people suggested, and a lot of people voted, yeah, I'd like that. So right underneath that is the submit a feature idea. So you can go there and look around. And then there is a phone number here, the hotline, and a chat bot where you can chat. And both of those are with a live person. They are available 24/7. We pay for the service. They are employees of Instructure, so they are Canvas experts, and you can get help from them, like I said, 24/7, whenever you need to. And the last is the training service portal, and this is brand new. And Canvas offers training videos, training courses, live webinars on all kinds of different topics. If it's in Canvas, there's a training on it. And you could go in there and you could search around and look for a particular topic, or you could look through the calendar at the different webinars that are coming up and see if anything interests you. All of that is available underneath the help button and on everybody's global navigation. So the training we're going to do for the next hour and a half or so, hopefully it won't take us that long, but we will cover about maintaining your connection with your students. And we're going to talk about Canvas conferences, discussion boards, assignments, providing feedback, and the new analytics and what that looks like. Now, there's three main types of interaction that you do with students in an online course. There is student-to-student interaction, so students talking to each other, interacting with each other, and that's either usually through discussions, through chatting, or through group projects. And then you have student to teacher interactions. So that's with you, again, through discussions, through chatting, through email, through conversations, which is what Canvas calls its little inbox right here. And the reason they call it conversations is so you don't get email, right, like our SMU Outlook email, mixed up with Canvas's conversations. I'll show you what that looks like here in a minute too. And then the last is student to content interaction. And that is the students interacting with the website, looking at your assignments, your reading assignments, the materials, your files, any videos you have up, and that kind of interaction. So those are three main ways that we have interaction: student to student, student to teacher, and student to content. So let's first look at something simple. Let's talk about the chat. All right. And what this will do is it'll let you chat with anybody else in the class at any time, as long as they're online. So here you would click down the little drop down and you would see a list of anyone in this class. And you would be able to click on them and quickly message back and forth. You could turn the alerts on up here, and that would allow you to leave this up in the background and do other work. And if someone were to put a new chat, then it would ping you and you'd know that there's something new in here. Again, this is just a simple chat bot. There's even little emojis that you guys can play with, and it's to chat with anybody in real time. So this might be a way to do a chat in office hours if you're not using other tools, but I highly recommend you use Canvas Conference or Canvas Zoom for synchronous office hours. So we're just going to go down the list, and we're going to talk about assignments next. And this is more a student content interaction. So any assignments that you give your students, they're going to be able to read the instructions, see how much it's worth, when it's due, and be able to uh, respond to you, with whichever modality you've chosen for them. And I'm not going to dive deep into assignments because that was a whole session earlier and it could take a whole hour, but I'm just going to show you an overview. So these gray boxes here are assignment groups. So you can do that with plus group, and you can see here that I've weighted them so they can be worth certain percentages of the total grade. Um, and then inside each group, you can put assignments. So if I create a new assignment, you can put your title in here and your directions in here. And you notice you have this huge this is called the rich content editor, and there are formatting things like bold, italics, left align, right align, that kind of thing, as well as tables. So like 2x2 cells and that kind of thing. Creating hyperlinks, adding photos, adding YouTube videos, recording your own video right into Canvas. You don't need any extra software. You can record straight into Canvas. And then this blue chevron does our LTIs, the things that we have plugged into Canvas on your behalf at SMU. So things like Box. So if you had files in Box and you wanted to link those files here, or you wanted to link a video from Box here, you could do that by clicking on Box, and it would be linked. It would open your Box and allow you to link that out, as well as things like Vimeo and PlayPosit and our new video management system, Panopto. So you would be able to link in a video from your Panopto library here as well. So just to show you real quick, like you can also use the things on the right hand side to link to. So you can always say, go read this, and link to a content page if you've created any. And when you click on it, it looks just like a link. Or you could say, if you already had a file uploaded, you could link to a file that you had in Canvas. So when you click it, it just makes a link for you. And you want to insert an image, you can click the embed image, and if it's a URL, paste it there, or if it's already in your Canvas files, you could put it there, or upload a new picture by doing the upload there. This is the same thing. So your files and your images, that is the same interface, the same end result of clicking the picture icon that you could get to. So I could insert a picture here, and there's my picture. So the points would be how much the assignment is worth. I will choose to display the grade as a percentage or points. Complete, incomplete means all or nothing. So they either get all the points or none of the points. If you want to get into letter grade and GPA, you need to come up with your own grading scheme to tell Canvas exactly what points would be worth what grade or what GPA. So that's a little different, and we can work on that individually if you need to. The submission type, no submission would means they're not submitting anything to you. This would be like if we were still doing classes, if they handed it in on paper. You also have the on paper option, which I would prefer you use as opposed to no submission, because then at least it tells the students they have to hand something in. But for our sakes, and since we're going online right now, most of the time you're going to do this online submission. If you give them this text entry option, it's going to give them this box here. So just like we were messing with earlier, they'll have all those same options: pictures, links, videos, text, everything. If you do website URL, that is literally just a box where they paste a URL. Media recording is that record option. It will give them this option here where they can link to a video, use the embed code like from YouTube or something, or give an alternate source, or they'll be prompted to the ability to record their own video. And then the last option is probably the most common, which is file uploads. And this is how you can collect Word documents, PowerPoint, Excel, PDFs, all that kind of stuff. The restrict option allows you to tell your students, I just want doc files. So you could do DOC, DOCX, and that's it. That's all they'll be allowed to submit. They can't submit a PDF or an Excel file or anything, just those. But that's up to you. So I'm going to go ahead and uncheck it. If you accept documents online, you can't, if they're full on papers and you want to check them for plagiarism, you can come here to plagiarism review and turn it in. Don't really have to worry about these settings. The only thing to really notice is the repository. So the default answer is the students submit the paper, it gets checked for plagiarism, as well as that paper gets submitted to the repository to be checked against other papers in the future. For example, if you're going to do a rough draft, you don't want to submit it to the repository, because when they do their final draft, they'll get 100% plagiarized, right? Because they're checking against their own paper. So if it's a rough draft, or for the sake that you just don't want it to be submitted to the repository, you want to choose do not store. If you do, standard paper repository is the default answer. You can choose to show the students their own plagiarism reports, and you could choose after or immediately, um, or never show it to them at all. Group assignments are literally just that. You would have to create groups of students, and then they would work on an assignment in that group. Peer review is what you think it is. You would be able to assign, everybody has to do 2 other students, and you can make it anonymous. And so they would get several to-do items. They'll have the homework to turn in, and then they'll have their peer reviews to turn in as well. You can make the grading anonymous, and that's for a benefit for you or a TA, to where it removes the students' names from the grading, so you're only looking at the homework. And then the last thing is this assign box. Now the default is to assign it to everybody. You put in some dates, and that's fairly standard. If I were to put in a due date that was Friday at 5 p.m., I also have these available in until dates, and that just means when can they first get into the assignment, and when's the last time they can get into the assignment. If I leave these empty, then this assignment is always open. But for example, if that's due on Friday, I don't want them to get into it until Monday. So I'm going to put in Monday at 8 a.m. That's the first time they can even click on the assignment. And even though it's due on Friday, I'm going to let them submit late assignments through Sunday. So I'm going to say they can do this till Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Now this does mean I'm accepting late assignments. If I don't want to accept late assignments, it's just due when it's due, then I need to choose that same Friday at 5 o'clock. And as long as these 2 match, then I won't get any late assignments. If they come in at 5:02, then that means they won't be able to submit. They won't be able to click on it. Okay. Save is you're just saving this assignment, but you're not showing it to the students yet. It's kind of like in rough draft form. If you're already ready to go ahead and let the students see it, that's when you want to make sure you publish it. So save and publish will go ahead and make it available to the students. I'm going to go ahead and cancel this since I've created a bunch of assignments already. When it comes in, it'll go into whatever category, whatever group that you told it to go into, and you'll see it here. You can always grab these little handlebars and drag them around and put them in whatever order you want. As well as if you've created groups, you can grab the handlebars and drag the groups around into whatever order you want. The assignments, anything that you set as a grade, whether it's an assignment, a quiz, or a discussion, will automatically populate into the gradebook, and that's how the gradebook is built. Okay, so that's a quick overview of assignments, and we'll go to discussions. Discussions are a great way to keep a connection with your student, to be able to ask questions or participate with each other, and that's where you really get that student-teacher interaction or the student-student interaction. So you can come up here and create it with the big plus discussion button. Again, title, instructions, all the same features that you had before. You'll notice here that you can assign a discussion to different sections. And so this only pertains to you if you've cross-listed your sections. So let's say you're teaching accounting class, but you're teaching section 1 and section 2. You could combine those into the same course shell, and so you would have multiple sections. If you don't cross-list, then you only have the one section, and this won't apply to you. You can attach a file if they need to read something or look at something. And then you have all these options here, and the big one being allow threaded replies so that students can reply to each other. And then I highly recommend this, and when you're setting up a discussion for the sake of keeping touch and keeping interaction with students, I recommend that you give them the instructions that they will need to, most of the time the discussion is a question from you. Like you may talk about a theory or talk about a practice or talk about a subject and then ask them a question. And that's what they'll need to reply to in this discussion. And so I highly recommend that you have them reply to the discussion to you directly, right, answering your question, as well as reply to two other students, for example. So, but by checking this box here, they must reply to you first as before they'll see any of the other replies. And this is a great thing because then you know that their replies are original thought. They're not just reading all the other replies and regurgitating information. They must put their own thoughts into it and hit reply before they see the other students, and then they can reply to the other students and say, oh yeah, I never thought about that, great point, or did you ever think about this, whatever they want to do or talk to each other about. The other big one is for grading. If you want to make this discussion worth a grade, you'll need to check the box and then assign the points and what assignment group it goes into, and assign it to everyone or whatever you need to do. One thing to note about this everyone box is that's the default, and that's great. It usually should be assigned to everybody. But let's say, for example, you had a student who missed class because they're an athlete, or in our current situation, they missed class because they had a doctor's appointment. Heaven forbid. So everyone might be due on, let's say, Friday at 11:59 p.m. But one of your students called you and said, I have a doctor's appointment. I've been in the hospital all day. I need to, I'm fine, but I need an extension. You can come in here and you can add again and then find that particular student. And instead of having them due on Friday, you give them an extension till Sunday at 5 p.m. And then so you'll notice this change to everyone else. So Lane got an extension. Everybody else is due on Friday. So that's the brilliance of the assign box. And that exists in discussions, quizzes, and assignments. So again, once you're satisfied here, you can do the save and publish if you're ready to go live, or save it if you're working on a rough draft and come back to it later. But if you just save it, don't forget to publish it later, otherwise the students cannot see it. All right, so I'm going to cancel that. And so you'll see here that you have 3 categories to put a discussion in. It can be in penned, regular discussions, or closed. So your regular discussions are here. You can see that these ones here are, this one here is not published. You can see it's not published here, whereas these ones with check marks are published. And you'll see that you have 0 unread messages, but there are 24 replies in this thread. When you first come in here, it'll be like 24 out of 24 until you've read through them, and then this will turn to a 0. This is a quick way to find out if there's anything you haven't read yet by just coming to the screens. When a discussion is finished, you can drag it from discussions down to closed, and that'll close the discussion out. No one more can participate. Or the due date will lock it down as well, and it'll go down to closed automatically. You can also make a discussion pinned. And I recommend pinned discussions for like your semester-long Q&A, where students can just ask general questions. And I highly recommend you create one of these, especially during this 2-week period where students can just ask questions, and then students can get an answer from you, or students can get answers from each other. So if they wrote, hey, when is that assignment due? Even though it has due dates on it and everything, students can reply to them and say, it was due last Friday, dude, you missed it. Whatever the case is. So I highly recommend you create a discussion for just a general Q&A and pin it to the top, so it is always up here at the top and open for students to ask questions and respond to each other. Okay. We'll leave the default settings alone. There's no reason to get into all that stuff right now. And you can search by title and author if you had a ton of discussions, but normally that's kind of a moot point. You'll know what you've created in here. So we'll keep going to the next one, which will be, we'll just go do new analytics. So on the home screen, you have student view, which allows you to look at the course through a student's eyes, so you can see what they see. But new analytics is a way to check their participation, check what they've been doing. So it comes up as a weekly online activity. This is the default view. And you can look at any particular day, and when you roll over a dot, you'll be able to see the total number of page views. And this is pretty much just you're just looking at page views. You're not talking about any kind of interaction, clicking on assignments, doing homework, that kind of thing. That's what this is. You can change this to sort by the individual sections if you have a cross-listed course, or you can look at any particular student and see their interaction over time. I forgot to mention this too. If you guys I keep hearing the chat ping. If you guys have questions, ask the questions in the chat. Steve Snyder is helping me out today. He's also a Canvas expert. He'll be answering your questions directly. I won't be monitoring the chat while we're doing this, just so I can make sure we get all the information across first. So when I'm looking at a particular student here, I can go to total page views. I can look at them for each day that this person's been interacting, or they didn't interact at all. And I've got this little sliding bar that allow me to go back in the semester or forward up to the current date. If you don't like the visual representation, you can change this to a data table if you like the Excel view, right? And you can always download this as a CSV. I can also change this from weekly online activity to look at grades. So if I change this to grades, you'll see a scattered bars, or not bar graph, sorry, scatter graph here. And you can look and see, like, this is an assignment, this is a quiz icon, and they're all down here at the bottom. And you can see I've chosen them here at the top. If I only want to look at assignments, I can uncheck these two, and I'm only looking at assignments. If I want to turn them back on, I just recheck them. Then I can roll over any particular one, and I can see that, oh, this was the Turnitin rubric assignment. And if I click on it, I can quickly see what the average score was, what the high score was, if anything's missing or late. You also have this neat little icon here called for messaging students who. So if I click it, I can message students who scored from 0 to, let's say, 60. So basically they failed the assignment. Well, I can message all those students who failed it and let them know that they probably need to reread some stuff or go back, or, this is a pretty telling assignment, they really need to buckle down. Or I can, if anybody got a 90 to 100, I can give them accolades and say, great job, you guys are doing really well. Or I can message students who have missed that particular assignment, who didn't turn it in, and say, you're lucky, I'm giving you a few more days, turn this in soon, kind of thing. Or you can message all the students who were late on the assignment and tell them that future assignments you won't be accepting late assignments or something like that. Whatever you want to message them, but this message to who is pretty powerful because it go ahead and creates a distribution list for you based off the criteria that you've chosen. All right. So down here, you can see all of the students and their grade and whether they've been on time, when they've participated last, and when they last looked at a particular page. So participation is a little different than page view. Page view, they just looked at something. Participate means they actually clicked on something, read through something, scrolled up and down. They posted on a discussion, that kind of thing. They're actually participating in the course as opposed to just looking. All right. So that's our new analytics, and that'll give you a little bit more grasp on what students are doing and how often they're doing it, or if they're not doing it. All right, so let's talk about giving feedback to students. There's a couple of ways you can do that, and we'll start with each one. So in assignments, let's say the assignment's, the due date is passed, and it's time to do some grading now. So you'll want to go to the assignment, and you'll want to jump into SpeedGrader. SpeedGrader allows you to give a grade. If you're using a rubric, it'll allow you to utilize your rubric and provide feedback and comments to each student. So let me open one of these where I've done some feedback here. So you can see this person submitted a PowerPoint. I was able to use some of these annotation tools up here to put little bubbles next to this, or scribble on the page, or add little notes, add comments to it, and students will be able to see this. And I'll show you what this view looks like a little to a student in a minute. You'll be able to come in here and also, if you click View Rubric and grab these little dots here and drag this over so you can see the whole rubric, you can utilize the boxes or type in a grade. I'm assuming if you use a rubric Most of you will have multiple grading criteria instead of singles. So you'll be able to provide feedback per grading criteria, meaning per row, if you hit this little icon on each row, and save it. Don't forget to save it. And then down here at the bottom, you'll be able to add general comments. So you have annotation comments using bubbles, highlighting, text boxes, strike through, just a pen basically, or draw a box around something, and you'll have comments for that. You can put comments in each row of the rubric if you use that, and you can add comments down here at the bottom as an overall arching comment, as well as in these comments fields, attach a document or something you want them to see, or record yourself. So this might come in handy in like a world language class where you want to record your feedback in the foreign language so that they get the practice of hearing it from you as well. And students can also reply to this feedback from their point of view. You'll get a notification that there's feedback that you need to look at, and you can create this whole chain of back and forth feedback, whether you're talking about grading or talking about the assignment or trying to work some things out. When it's all said and done, if it's a great feedback, a great back and forth, and you want to keep it, you can download it here. Or if heaven forbid there was ever a student wanted to complain about a grade, you could download all the feedback and you have proof there. So 3 ways for feedback inside grading and a speed grader is annotation, a rubric if you're using one, and then comments down here. And this is all just for an assignment. Okay, so let's go to a quiz, and I'll show you how we can do feedback there. So with a quiz, you can also jump into SpeedGrader, and you have the comment box for the attachments and the video and all that stuff right there. So that's one way you can provide feedback, and that's usually to the quiz overall. You cycle through your students up here at the top by just using the arrows. So you can go into, here's one. You can provide additional feedback per question as necessary in SpeedGrader. So you can get very detailed on quizzes. You can go question by question. And this is after they've taken the quiz. If you want to do some of this feedback prior to a quiz, when you're creating the questions, so here's a particular question. You'll notice if like on multiple choice questions, they have feedback. You could do preset feedback per answer or preset feedback per question. So these ones here at the bottom are for the whole question, and these ones individually here are per answer. So there's yet another layer of feedback that you can provide to each student. This does take a little time to set up, especially if you're going to do per answer. But the great part is that when you do this next semester, you can roll this over and all that feedback will still be built in. Okay. All right. So we have feedback for assignments, we have feedback for quizzes, and then discussion feedback is sort of obvious, right? You're actually talking to each other, replying back and forth in a threaded discussion. Another way you can keep in touch with students, we've talked about chat, we've talked about assignments and discussion boards, we've talked about feedback, and there's also conferences. Now, conferences is very much like Zoom. Okay, you have, we're doing what we're doing now where we're sharing screens and I'm showing you things, I'm talking to you. You have breakout rooms that you can create. There's a whiteboard that you can write on. There's a participation list and a chat screen. All that stuff is also built into conferences. There are a couple of major differences. And I'll show you how to create one in just a second. One of the major differences is that these conferences are only for the students in this class. So they'll get a notification that a conference is available and they can join. If you want to set up like office hours and set up a conference for your office hours, you can do that and just be on the conference call waiting for students to drop in and talk. but it is only for these students. So that means you can't invite students from another class. You can't invite people from outside of SMU. This is just the people on this roster for this course. The other thing to note is that you can record these just like you can record Zoom. It is a cloud-based recording, but in order to keep their server space down, the recordings only last for 14 days. So after 14 days, the recording goes away. You'll still be able to see the link. I mean, you'll still be able to see that there was a conference like this one right here, but you'll notice it's not a link anymore. So I can't click on it because it's older than 14 days. So those are the two big differences. Let me show you what it looks like to create one. It's fairly simple. We just click plus conference. You'll go ahead and give it a title. Big Blue Button is the company that Canvas uses. You can set your duration here. You can record it. And you could say, well, I don't really want a duration. I just want to let it run. I don't recommend doing this, but if you're going to sit in office hours for an hour, maybe you want to set it for 90 minutes, just in case you run over, something like that. You could type in the description, general office hours, online office hours, or you could have a conference because you want to do your class lecture. So you could say Tuesday's lecture, and you could do it in here and record it for 14 days. By default, it wants to invite everybody who's on the roster. It wants to invite them all. But let's say you want to do a conference and you just want to talk to that one student who missed because she went to the hospital and that kind of thing. You can set a conference and just invite that individual student. So if you uncheck this, you can go and find that individual student and check them, and they will be the only ones invited and the only ones invited into the conference or allowed in. This remove course observers, we really don't use observers at SMU, so that's kind of a moot point here, so don't worry about that. When you click update, it's kind of like hitting save, right? And it'll show up here under new conferences, and then you'll get a join button down here on the right hand side, and you can click join, and that's when you kind of start the conference and other people can join in and participate. So this is another way you can provide feedback. You can maintain a connection by having online office hours or do your lectures through here. And you can have the interaction with students where you can allow them to speak up, or you can have them put questions in the chat. And again, you can record for up to 14 days. You do not have to record. That's totally up to you. But at this point, and given the fact that we're going online so quickly for 2 weeks, I highly recommend you record it because some of those students, things are just chaotic for a lot of people, and allowing them to view this offline would be a huge advantage. If you are going to offer live lectures, if you want to do this synchronously, we do highly recommend that you offer them at the exact time the class would be offered, because students already have those time slots available. They may have a job or other obligations out there. So if you had a 9 to 10 class, please offer your lecture at 9 to 10. Okay, conferences. So let me show you what some of this stuff will look like from the student point of view. All right. So I'm in my same class, but I'm in as one of my fake students. And if I were to go to, say, the chat screen, it looks very similar to what you had, except the ability to create the chat. If there were people chatting, you would just see the back and forth here, much like you'd see on your cell phone. If I went to conference page, I could see this here. And students can create conferences. They can talk to each other, create student group conferences and that kind of thing. They can open a conference up and have study groups and things like that. So they can do that. If I go to a discussion page, because we didn't pin a discussion, you don't see the pinned discussions here. But if we were to create that Q&A that I highly recommend for the entire semester, you would see that up at the top. If I go into a chat, I've already posted here, so now I can see everybody else's responses as well. I can see the things that they've posted, and I can reply. So I can come in here and, just type what I want and post my reply. And so you'll see my reply here, and this person happens to be me, will get a ding that there's been a reply on my chat because I am subscribed. You can see that up here in the upper corner. If you're subscribed to a chat, which is to a discussion board, I'm sorry, which is the default, you will get notifications of when there's new things inside the discussion board. If, for example, I was a student and I'm tired of getting dinged about a particular one, I could unsubscribe and I would not get notifications. That All right, so that's what a chat looks like for a student. And look, you can put in pictures, you can put in GIFs, you can put in videos. So you get that same RCE box that we saw earlier with all those different options of things to upload. All right. For a student, the grades look a bit different. So instead of seeing like a grade book per se, they'll see a laundry list of all of their assignments. And they'll be able to see, if they're missing the assignment, if the due date's passed, or what their score was. And then you have all these little icons right here. So let me jump down to one that has all the icons. All right, so for this assignment, I can see that there's an exclamation point. Well, what that means is that the instructor has decided not to count this towards the final grade. So it was more of a checking assignment, like where's your head at, how you doing kind of thing. So I can still see that I got a 5 out of 10, but it doesn't count towards my final grade, which is good for me. These little bubble icons right here, these are all the comments. So I showed you earlier in the speed grader how you could comment back and forth. Well, this is what the student would see, and they could see the back and forth commenting. This one with a checkbox right here, this is the histograph that shows you as a student where you are in the class. So I can see that the one person scored a 20, somebody didn't turn it in at all, so they got a 0, and the average score for the class was a 7.4. And since I got a 5, this is where I stand as opposed to the median of the grade for the whole course. And this last one, it looks like a clipboard. This is for the rubric. So if this assignment had a rubric and then you as an instructor have utilized a rubric, the student would be able to see the rubric, what box they got, what their score was. And if you had used any of that feedback, that little bubble, there would be a bubble right here, another row that gives me that feedback for that particular grading criteria. And I could do that with any of the assignments that I have, and all the subtotals for the assignment groups that I've created and the total for the class are listed here at the bottom. You can also see that the scores were listed here to the right. And students have this one weird feature that says show what if score. This comes in really handy towards the end of the semester where there's only like 2 assignments left. They can click this and they can say, well, if I get a 50 on the final exam and a 75 on the final homework, I'm going to get a B for the class. Okay, so I'm okay. And so that kind of gives them this what if scenario, and they can estimate what they might get in the course. They can also click on the assignment itself. So if I click on the assignment, I go to this page, and this is the homework. This is the document I submitted to you I'm the student. I submitted to the instructor. This is the homework I submitted. And if the instructor provided any feedback, I can click on that. So if I click on view feedback, it opens it up. And if there were any of these annotations that we talked about on top of this picture, I would be able to see them here. On the right-hand side, I can see the comments that the instructor has made, and I can comment back to the instructor. I also have the ability to attach a file and do the recording or audio recording or video recording as a student and do that back. So again, foreign language, I could talk back in Spanish to you, and we could have that back and forth. And so this is how a student would submit a comment back to you based off this assignment. If the assignment has a rubric, I can see it up here. I click show rubric, and there it is. And if the assignment is open and still available for me to submit again, I could resubmit from here. So you want to be aware of whether or not you allow the students to make late assignments, or if you shut it down by putting that until date so they can't resubmit. This particular assignment does not have an until date, so there is the capability of resubmitting. All right. As a student, when I come in here for the first time and I come into my course, if I have any new grades, like you as an instructor have graded something and it's new to me, there'd be a little number 1 right here in a blue dot. So I would know to go to my grades and check out my what's been graded newly, and that blue dot would also be right here on the left that corresponds to the assignment that is new to me, or the grade that is new to me. Right? And so you can do Zoom inside Canvas as well. So here as a student, I don't see that there's any upcoming Zoom events, and that's because the instructor hasn't created any. Now, you as an instructor have the ability to use Canvas conferences, which we talked about earlier, or you can use Zoom. If this is conferences for the instructor, and if I go down to Zoom, I can see all these trainings that I have coming up. These are all my course, my meetings I have coming up. If I want my students to be able to click on Zoom and see the meeting for this class, I need to create this meeting inside the Canvas course. By creating it inside the Canvas course like this, by using the Zoom link, I will be able to, the students will then be able to come in here and see that meeting. You remember earlier, just a second ago on the student review, there were no meetings because none have been created for this course. If I'm an instructor and I don't create it inside this course, like if I create it using the website and I think, oh man, I want my students to know about that upcoming meeting, I just didn't do it inside Canvas, then you'll need to give an announcement or use the conversation in order to give them the invitation to let them know there's an upcoming meeting, because it won't show in this link unless you create it inside here. So let me show you an announcement real quick. This is exactly what you think it is. We're just creating an announcement to the class. So I click plus announcement and I give it a title. I go ahead and type my announcement up in here. And again, I have all those same options for videos and pictures and all that good stuff. By default, it goes to everyone in your class. If you have cross-listed your course, you could choose to send an announcement to a particular section. So for example, I wanted to send an announcement to just the Tuesday, Thursday class, I could do that. And you have your other abilities that we've seen, like in the discussion board, where you can attach a file or allow users to comment on the announcement. You can even let them like your announcement if you want them to like it. But one of the cool features about announcements is you can delay posting. So you can actually set this up ahead of time. So if you want to send this, you're thinking about it now and you want to send this announcement on Friday, but you don't want to forget, you could come in here and say, send it at 4:45 p.m. to remind the students that homework is due by 5 o'clock. And when you save it, it will automatically go off at Friday at 4:45 p.m. Whether you're logged in or not, it doesn't matter. The server will take care of it. So that's your basic announcement. And if you created that Zoom link outside, like we talked about on the website, you could paste that invitation right there into that announcement and announce it to the class that there's a meeting coming up. And then the last thing was inbox conversations. And it is very much like email, but Canvas wanted us to make sure to not say that this is email because it is a conversation. It's a back and forth. It's kind of like a discussion board. You will get, if you create one of these, you will get a notification in your Outlook email that you have a reply. So to create one, you go to Inbox and you hit the little pencil icon up here at the top. And you can do it by course. So let's say I want to go for this course that we're working on, the sandbox. And I can send it to the teachers in the class if we were team teaching or had multiple teachers, or I could send it to just the students. I could also do it by section, or if I had set up student groups, like if we had a homework that was a group assignment, I could send it to just that group. Again, subject, type all your message out, and you could send this to everybody. What it'll do is it'll show up over here on the left-hand side as you being sending it out, and you will see the threads, just like a reply email. You see what everybody wrote. If you did this to the entire class, you would see all the students talking back and forth, replying to this conversation. And each time there was a new reply, you would see that in here, as well as you'd get a notification in your email. With that said, it is important to know what your notifications are. So underneath your account, you can go to notifications. Now in here, you'll notice I have several email addresses, but I have one default email, and I have set all of my notifications to be immediately. Anything that happens in my courses, anything that happens in my discussions, anything that happens with scheduling, groups, conferences, everything, I want to know about it immediately. You can change these. So like if you changed it to this one, this would be, I would only get notifications daily. If I click the calendar icon, I only get these things weekly, once a week. And I could say, don't notify me at all. And the crux is students have this same ability. So they would be able to change some of these to notify them daily or weekly. It's important for you as an instructor to make sure that these things are on. So two things. One is the announcements created by you. So you'll want to turn that, make sure that's on set to immediately. That way when your announcement goes out, you get a notification and you can have peace of mind that you know it went out, as well as the conversations created by me. Again, set this to immediately. If you were to send a conversation from the inbox here, you would get a copy in your email. And that, again, that gives you peace of mind to let you know that the conversation did go out. So if students contact you and say, well, I never got it or something like that, you know it went out because the conversations, you're getting copies of it. We automatically populate this email field based off of your preference in MySMU, and the same for the students. It's preferred email address. So from a student's point of view, you can see that they also have notifications. And like announcement here, they can turn them off. This does not alleviate them from doing homework and paying attention and being in the course and getting a grade. They can't cite this and be like, well, I didn't know, I turned it off. Doesn't get them off the hook. But I wanted to let you know that they can adjust their own notifications as well. All right, so we've talked about a lot of information in a very short amount of time. We talked about Canvas conferences and how you can set those up and talk with students, record it for 14 days. It's only good for the people in the course. We've talked about discussions, how you can do threaded replies, and that option to make sure that they make their own reply before seeing everybody else's. We talked about assignments and how you can set those up and provide feedback through annotations, through submitting comments, um, and quizzes, how you can provide feedback on the questions, on the answers, or through the comments as well. We talked about looking at analytics, so you can see how students are doing, how much they're participating, where they're kind of at in the course. The last thing I will show you guys is when you go into the gradebook for any particular assignment, you'll be able to open a little context card. So if I click on this, I can enter the grades manually here in the gradebook as well. But if I open this little card over here, it's kind of a miniature version of SpeedGrader. You can put in a grade, you can tag it with late, missing, excused, you can put comments in right here, but you notice you don't have those multimedia attachments or videos abilities here. So if you need those, you can jump straight to SpeedGrader from here, and it'll take you to SpeedGrader in reference to this particular assignment. You can also do the message students who right from the gradebook as it pertains to this assignment. So in this assignment, these students who haven't submitted, that's these 3 students. I can message them. Or I can look at those students who scored less than a 5 and it populates it automatically, and I can message them right from here. So you can provide feedback with that message students who. Whew. Okay, so we got through that really quickly. There's a ton of way we can provide feedback. We can interact with chat and conferences and those kind of things. You can use Zoom, but we've got a little time left in today's session. Are there any questions that you want to ask? Wow, it's crickets out there. Okay. Um,
I have one quick question.
sure.
So when I pull up Zoom on my Canvas board, nothing comes up. Is there?
Does it ask you to sign in?
No.
So when this comes up, you don't get this, and you don't get a box that says Zoom sign in required.
No, it's just it's just white with my options on the left side. Yeah, just completely blank.
Okay. Hang on, and let me see if anybody else has questions, and then I'll talk to you separately.
Okay, thanks.
And tell us the difference between using Zoom outside of Canvas and using the tool.
Again, the only major difference of using this tool and using the website is if you create the meeting inside Canvas here, when students click on this Zoom link here, they'll be able to see the upcoming meeting listed. If you create it on the website, then you'll have to give them the join URL either via a conversation or an announcement to let them know there's an upcoming meeting, because it won't be inside here. When you launch the meeting, whether you're inside here or you're on the website, it'll look exactly the same. It'll launch the little tool that's installed on the computer and launch into the major Zoom function. So that won't be any different. Someone asked about the homepage. So real quick, the homepage design, the course summary here is built by default. So anything you create, assignment, discussions, quizzes that has a grade or a due date attached to it, will be auto-populated by due date. The syllabus up stuff up here, you hit edit and you get that same rich content editor where you can insert images or links or files, all that good stuff. And when you hit update, it'll populate that information here. But as far as a homepage choice goes, you can do choose homepage, and you have several options to choose from. You can send students straight to the assignment page or straight to the module page if you're using modules. Or if you're more of the creative type and you've created your own page inside Pages right down here, and you've created this fancy homepage, you can use that page as a homepage and set that if you want. If you're not into setting all this stuff up, I recommend using the syllabus, because not only can you put information up here at the top, which would be really important, like your contact information, even a picture of you, and make sure that they're in the right course, like welcome to Disc 1313, that kind of information. You can copy and paste your entire syllabus here, or you can link to the syllabus, or you can just put pieces that are most important. I think right now, and given our 2 weeks, I think that contact information, and if you're going to offer synchronous sections, or if you're just going to upload recordings of your lectures, that kind of information would be most important for the students right now. If any of this navigation stuff here is missing, like if you don't have the Zoom link, you'll need to go to Settings and Navigation. And this is what's available and this is what's turned off. So if Zoom, let me pull it down here, was turned off, you wouldn't see it right here. So you'll want to grab it and drag it up and put it up here and save. And then that makes it available on the left-hand side. You guys won't need all of these tools for sure. I just put them up here for training purposes so you can see everything that we have available. This late in the semester, we talked about cross-listing courses. We definitely do not want you to cross-list courses this late in the semester. If you have assignments or grades already in other courses, if you try to cross-list them, you would lose one of those courses, the materials. You would lose all the assignments, all the grades, all that stuff. So we don't want you to cross-list this late in the semester unless both of the classes are brand spanking new and no one's interacted with them. All right, anybody else have any questions besides the one about the Zoom link missing? If you want to unmute your mic and ask the question, you can do that.
Oh, hi. Thank you. Sorry, I was typing like crazy before you just said goodbye. If it turns out that we're able to go to campus and teach in our classrooms in distance education enabled classrooms and actually do it in the lecture room and then want to upload that, is this the right time to ask about the process for capturing that video or interacting with students live and then posting to Zoom?
Right. Okay. So let me give you the default answer, which is you really need to talk to your ATSD because every room is slightly different.
Okay.
And they will be able to tell you specifically for that room the steps to take. But I'll
Perfect.
give you a general answer.
Okay.
Is that we've gone around and feverishly installed webcams in every room, so you should be
Yeah.
able to record, but you will need to adjust your style. Like you can't walk around the room because the camera is just right in front of the computer. So you'll need to talk to the camera that's sitting in front of the computer.
Okay.
If you're going to use like the whiteboard to write on and things like that, you'll need to take pictures of the whiteboard, either like with your cell phone or a camera,
Gotcha.
and include those pictures with the video later if you want to edit the video, or include them, upload them to Canvas or to a website or something where they can be seen, because you're not going to
Okay.
be able to capture that on the video.
Okay.
You'll also want to be cognizant that the further you get away from the camera, the less they'll be able to hear you. So I
Okay.
really recommend just kind of planting your feet in front of that camera and doing that recording. But you can record, like I'm recording this session right now. When I go to record, I can choose local, right? Which means record it to the computer.
Okay.
And that means later you're gonna need to grab that file before you leave to be able to upload it, or you can upload it right from that computer. So like if you want to use Panopto, you'll come into Canvas, you'll click on Panopto, and when this loads, you're going to want to hit the create button
Okay.
and say upload media, and then you just find that file and you can drag it right into this box here and it'll upload it to Panopto. And as soon as it's uploaded to Panopto, it will automatically start the closed captioning for you, and it will be available for the students to view underneath the Panopto link immediately.
That is amazing. That's great.
Cool.
Thank you. But that's just a screen grab. That's a screencast, basically, right?
No, you can choose whatever. You can record with the camera, or you can record the screen if you're doing things on it. So you can do both.
Okay, perfect.
And the brilliance of Panopto is the students will have the ability to switch back and forth. So if you're doing something like right there in front of the camera, like if you're showing them a piece of paper or a picture that you have on hand, they can switch to that camera. Or if you're showing them something on the screen, they can switch back to the screen. They'll have both streams to be able to look at.
Okay.
How long will it be available on Panopto? Indefinitely. We have a 3-year contract right now, so for at least 3 years. We don't plan on switching anytime soon unless something dramatic happens. So it'll be up there forever, so to speak.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else before I talk to the one person about Zoom? Okay, so everybody else, thank you for coming. I did put a link at the top of the chat with all of our trainings that are offered by me, by Steve, by all of our ATSDs and other folk. So if you need a topic, I'm sure there's one covered that you can look at in there. As well as, don't forget to keep checking the Keep Teaching website, which is part of that link. So if you go to that link, you're on the Keep Teaching website for the latest updates about the virus and SMU. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now, and then I can talk to you about the Zoom link.